So just to kind of review, remember what we went over last class, law of sines. Because in these problems now, you're going to have to decide, is it a law of sine problem or is it a law of cosine? Remember, law of sines you use if you're given the angle side, the two angles and non-included side. You use it for also the angle side angle, two angles and the included side. You also use law of sines for the side angle. So if that information is presented to you, that's how you know it's going to be a law of sine problem. So law of cosines picks up where the law of sines leaves off. So again, we're still using law of cosines to solve an oblique triangle. Remember, we're not dealing with right triangles. We're dealing with acute or we're dealing with the obtuse triangles. You will use law of cosines. Remember, 3 pieces of information are still going to be given to you about the triangle. You need to solve for the other 3 pieces. So if I give you these 3 pieces, 2 sides and an included angle. So if you have a triangle and I give you these 2 sides and the included angle. So when I say the included angle, it's the angle that's formed by the 2 sides given. So this is a side angle side scenario. So if I give you the 2 sides and an included angle, you're going to have to use the law of cosines. You can try setting up the law of sines, but it's impossible to get 2 fractions equal to one another with only one unknown. It won't work. You always end up with 2 unknowns. That's why you have to use the law of cosines. Or if I give you the 3 sides. So it's a side. So these are the 2 cases where you're going to have to use your law of cosines. And remember, like I said last class, the formulas, which I will be giving you for the quiz and for the midterm, are located on the very last page of your note packet. So the law of cosine formulas are right here, next to the law of sines. So the formulas are a squared is equal to b squared plus c squared minus 2bc times the cosine of angle A. Now, notice this side is lowercase a. In the formula is cosine of angle A. So this formula, to help you set these formulas up, this is a side of the triangle. This is, you're taking the cosine of the angle opposite that particular angle. B and C are your other 2 sides in the triangle. Or b squared is equal to a squared plus c squared minus 2ab times the cosine of angle B. No, AC, excuse me. So b squared is equal to a squared plus c squared minus 2ac times the cosine of B. Again, B is one side of the triangle. Cosine of B, B is the angle opposite. So when you're looking at these formulas, this is a side. In the formula, you're taking the cosine of that particular angle on the other side. Or c squared is equal to a squared plus b squared minus 2ab times the cosine of angle C. Which formula do you use? It really just depends upon what pieces they're giving you in the formula. In the problem. Okay? So let's take a look at example number 1. First of all, you always now have to be on the lookout, because on the quiz I'm not going to say, hey guys, use the law of sines. Hey guys, use the law of cosines. You have to recognize based on the information given how you're going to get started. So always draw a picture if it's not given. So they're telling you that you have these 2 sides and angle B. So I'm just going to, it doesn't matter how you label your vertices, I'm going to go ahead and label it as ABC right here. So side A is opposite angle A, which is 2. Side C is opposite angle C, which is 1. And then angle B is 10 degrees. So what scenario is this? Is this an angle side? Is this an angle side angle? What scenario am I giving you? I'm giving you 2 sides and an angle. Tell me about it. Side angle side. So this is a side angle side. So therefore, I have to start by using the law of cosines. So if you've got a side angle side, the only thing you can start solving for is the side opposite the angle that's given. You have not enough information to start anywhere else. So if it's a side angle side, you always have to start by solving for the side opposite this particular given angle. Okay? So now I'm going to use that b squared, because that's the side that I'm solving for. So b squared is equal to a squared, I know, which is 2, so I'm going to square it, plus c squared, which I know is 1 squared, so I'm just plugging the values into the formula, minus 2 times a, which is 2, times c, which is 1, times the cosine of angle b, which is 10 degrees. So any questions on how I plug that into the formula? So now you're just going to type this directly into your calculators. So 2 squared plus 1 squared minus 2 times 1 times the cosine of 10 degrees. Don't just take 1.061 and take the square root. Leave this on the calculator right now. All right? So now what I want to do, because this is what b squared is equal to. So to solve for b, I'm going to have to take the square root of this number. So just hit your second square root sign and hit that second negative sign answer. That calculator, you're going to get a better answer than if you round this to 3 decimal places. That answer, what you're doing, the calculator is going to take that previous answer that was calculated and just take the square root with it, all those decimal places out. So you do second negative, you'll see that A and S. So hit your square root, and I'm going to hit the second negative sign. Okay. So there's my side B. So side B is approximately equal to 1.0299. Again, always take it out at least 3. I'm taking it out at least 4 because I'm going to have to use that in other calculations. Okay? So any questions on how I found side B? Yes, Peyton?
So if it doesn't specify how many decimal places you can do?
Always 3.
Okay.
Always 3. Always get in the habit of always doing 3.
But even though that's 4?
Yeah. If I take it out more is always better than 3. But bare minimum is 3.
Oh, so you could do more than
You could do more, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. Don't do fewer than that, though. So we okay on where I got B? Okay, now this is where I mentioned, now we have 2 angles remaining to solve. Now that you know an angle and a side opposite this particular angle, you have enough information if you want to. You can now switch over to law of sines, because as you can see, the law of sine formula is a little bit easier than the law of cosine formula. So you have enough information now to go ahead and switch over and solve angle A by using your law of sines. Or you can solve for side C. Now, this is where I caution you if you are going to switch over to law of sines. Solve for the largest angle if you use law of sines. Smallest, excuse me. Yeah. The reason why is because you could have an obtuse angle in this triangle. You agree? We don't know. It's either obtuse or acute, because we know it's not a right triangle, correct? So it's either obtuse or it's going to be acute. If you type in your calculator second sine, remember we studied all that stuff about inverses. Inverse cosine goes from 0 to pi, from 0 to 180 degrees. Inverse sine is only going to give you angles from negative 90 degrees to positive 90 degrees. So if you have an obtuse triangle here, which you could, and you switch over to law of sines, you're going to get a negative angle measurement, which doesn't make any sense. So that's why if you're going to switch over to law of sines, solve for the smallest angle. So out of angle A and angle C, which angle would be the smallest? Angle C, exactly. So I'm going to go ahead and solve for angle C. So I'm going to have sine of C over 1 is equal to the sine of 10 degrees over that 1.0299. Your calculator will not give you an obtuse angle if you're using inverse sine. It's only going to give you angles between negative 90 degrees and 90 degrees. So that's why if you switch over to law of, if you're going to stick with law of cosines, which you could, if you love law of cosines, be my guest. But again, Law of cosines, like you see, is not as pretty of a formula to use. So again, I'm going to cross multiply, so 1.0299 times sine of c is equal to sine of 10 degrees. And then I'm going to divide by 1.0299. So then remember, angle C is going to be equal to your inverse sine of sine of 10 degrees over 1.0299. So sine of 10 divided by 1.0299. Sine of 10 divided by. So up with angle C to be approximately 9.707 degrees. Make sure you don't forget your degree symbol. Okay? So any questions on how I found angle C? With the law of cosines, you only have to do one piece with law of cosines, and then you can switch over to law of sines to find the other parts. All right, so any questions where I found the angle C? So now, if angle C is 9.707 degrees, how can I find angle A? I can simply do what? Add angle C and angle B together, and then do what with it? Subtract it from what? 180. So then angle A is going to be equal to 180 degrees minus the sum of 10 degrees plus 9.707 degrees. So 160.293. So as you can see, this was indeed an obtuse triangle. So you would have had issues if you tried to do the law of sines and solve for angle A. You would have gotten a negative angle measurement out of the calculator, which hopefully would have given you a red flag that you got a problem. All right, so when you're doing law of sines, if you switch over, just use law of sines, solve for that smallest angle, and then you'll be fine. Okay? Yes, George?
So if I accidentally make the mistake of doing the largest angle, could I just add 180 degrees to the negative value?
Yeah. Yeah. Or just go back and solve for the other angle. Okay. Any questions on that one? So let's take a look at another one. So example 2. So again, this is a pretty obvious scenario that I have. It's a triangle ABC. What am I giving you? I'm giving you all what in this triangle? I'm giving you all what? Sides. So I have A is equal to 4, B is equal to 3, C is equal to 6. So this is obviously a side scenario. So you don't have enough information to use law of sines. You have no choice but to use the law of cosines. Now, like kind of spinning off what I just did, I know I'm going to have to solve for one of my 3 angles to get started with. So what you want to do when you have a side, always start by solving for the largest angle. That's where you start. Because if it's obtuse, law of cosines will find it. That way, that whole mystery with the calculator getting negative angles will be taken care of. So if you're going to have an obtuse angle in this triangle, which one is it going to be? C. So that's where I'm going to start. So obviously, I want to use the formula that has the cosine of C in that particular formula. So I'm going to use the C squared is equal to A squared plus B squared minus 2AB times the cosine of angle C. Since I want to solve for angle C first. So again, sine C then is 6 squared equals 4 squared plus 3 squared minus 2 times A, which is 4, times B, which is 3, times the cosine of C. So depending upon how good you are with the calculator in terms of the algebra, we know we're going to have to do some algebra steps first to get cosine by itself. Well, 6 squared is going to be 36. 4 squared is 16. Plus 3 squared, which is 9. 2 times 4 is 8. 8 times 3 is 24. By the way, can I take 9 minus 24 and combine that? No, be careful about that. Remember, order of operations, you have to multiply before you add, so you can't do anything else. So don't subtract that. I've seen that before. I can add 16 plus 9 together. So 16 plus 9 is going to give me 25. What's going to be your first step now to get cosine by itself? What's going to be your first step? What's going to be your first step here? Subtract the 25. So I get 11 is equal to negative 24 cosine C. Then what? Divide by negative 24. So I have cosine of C is equal to negative 11 over 24. So now how do I solve for angle C? I'm going to have to take the inverse cosine. So angle C is equal to your inverse cosine of negative 11 over 24. So any questions where I got the negative 11 over 24? So second cosine of negative 11 divided by 24. And I end up with 117.2796 degrees. So you do indeed have an obtuse angle in there. So angle C is equal to 117.2796 degrees. Okay. So any questions on how I solve for C? Now you don't have to worry about having any more obtuse angles because I know a triangle can only have one obtuse angle in it. Now, if you wanted to solve for A or B, it's completely up to you. Eeny, meeny, or miny, mo. Do you have enough information now to switch over to law of sines if you wanted to? Yes. So what I'd like you to do right now is everybody go ahead and solve for angle A for me. See if you, again, using law of sines, you can go ahead and find angle A. If you love law of cosines, you certainly could do law of cosines and find angle A. But as you can see, it's got a lot more manipulation there to solve for those angles.